Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Today, I'm going to give you an explanation of chapter 2 in my new book, A Spiritual Soul Book. When we go through the book together, you are going to have a very deep appreciation of a lot of very fundamental and important spiritual ideas. And by appreciating these very important and fundamental spiritual ideas, you are going to be connected to a very deep well within yourself, that you will be able to draw from that well tremendous strength and energy in your life. That brings along with it light and guidance and joy, and we're going to work on that together. So, without further ado, today we're on chapter 2, and chapter 2 is talking about the garments of the soul: thought, speech, and action. What does that mean, the garments to the soul? Everybody has within themselves a soul. The Torah tells us that when God created the human being, he formed his body from the earth on the ground, and that form, and we're going to develop these ideas as we move along my book. The form of the body is a mirror, an expression of God himself. Now, obviously, God has nothing physical about himself, but these are the words that the Torah uses. Nase Adam b'tzalmenu kidmusenu. Let us make a human being in the form and in the image of ourselves. And it's also in the plural. Let us, and Rashi, the commentator, explains why that expression is used. But that is the way God made the body, in the form and in the image of God. And we're going to address all these issues as we move along my book, A Spiritual Soul Book. But that's not the discussion today. The discussion today is not about the form and the image of the physical body. There is a physical body, and God designed it in his own image and in his own form. So it's an expression of something very spiritual. The fact that we have two eyes, one on the right, one on the left. We have two ears on the right and on the left. We have 10 fingers, 5 on the right, 5 on the left. All these represent some spiritual ideas that are expressed in the physical form and shape of everybody's body. Inside this body, God breathed. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. God breathed in his nostrils the breath of life. So there is a breath of life. What animates the body? What makes the brain think? What makes the heart pump? And that's that breath of life that God blew within this physical body. So there is a breath of life. There is the soul, which is a portion of God that comes out of God, and it was blown into the nostrils of this human being. And it's what animates and gives life to every single cell within a person's existence. That's the life, the soul that is at the core of the movement of every single cell and of every single atom and molecule, down to the subatomic level, down to the protons, the neutrons, to the quarks. It's all the life of God that is invested and enclosed in this physical matter. Now, the identity of a person, which is the soul of a person, I know that I am me. That awareness and that identity is my soul. It has many different ways in which it expresses itself in the me that I am. There is the life, which is the same in my head as it is on the heel of my foot. The heel of my foot is no less alive than my brain. As far as life and being alive goes, The cells of my brain are as much alive as the cells in the heel of my foot. Thank God, it's all alive. The blood, which is circulating around my entire body, and within the blood, there is the oxygen and there is life. It's everywhere the same in my entire body. And that's life, and that's the soul. Now, the soul, Chassidus tells us, has three ways that it expresses itself inside myself, to other people, and to making an impact in the world. These three ways that the soul has that expression of itself inside myself and to other people and in the world is called the garments of the soul. The garments of the soul, it's not the soul itself. When I put on clothing, that's not my body, that's not me. I put on clothing in order to go outside and to communicate with the world. And also to express myself in the kind of clothing I am wearing. I don't wear the same clothing to a wedding that I wear when I go to the beach. They call for different types of clothing for the circumstances that I'm in and for the kind of experience that I want to have. The same thing is also when it comes to the soul. Chassidus explains that your thoughts is not your soul. Your words is not your soul. The action that you do is not your soul. You decide what thoughts you think. You decide what words you speak. You decide what kind of activity and action you want to involve yourself in doing. Now, there are two parts to this. Generally, what kind of clothes do you decide to wear? They express the kind of person that you are. If you're a clean, sanitary individual, you don't put on clothing that is dirty. If you're somebody who doesn't appreciate the value and the importance of sanitary clothing, and you put on stinky, dirty clothing with holes in it. So, on the one hand, the kind of clothing that a person wears is an expression of the kind of person that is wearing those clothing. There's another side to this, and that is, if I put on fancy clothing, it's going to make me feel fancy. If I put on dirty, disgusting clothing, it's going to influence my feelings and the way I feel and the way I think inside. My intellect is going to be impacted, and the intellect is different than the thoughts. And we're going to develop these ideas as we go along. My intellect is a faculty of my soul, and it uses the possibility to think. And that is why there's a debate in the world. Do people who have a better vocabulary have a better developed character and psychology than people who don't have a developed vocabulary? And according to Kabbalah and according to Chassidus, it is very clear that the more words, the greater the vocabulary that you have, the richer your life and the expression of your soul. Because the vocabulary is the thoughts, it's the vehicle in which you are able to express your intellect. They carry your intellect. They carry your feelings. And according to the vehicle, is going to be the movement of what it's carrying. So if I put on fancy thoughts and if I put on fancy clothing, it's an expression that I'm a fancy individual. And also, even if I'm not such a fancy individual, if I pick up a book and I express fancy words, it's going to give the impression that I'm fancy, because people only judge me by the way I communicate with them. And they're going to see me as a fancy individual. But more than that, when I put on fancy clothing, it's going to rub off on me. It's actually going to influence me backwards, and it's going to have an impact on my intellect and on my emotions. So today's class, we're going to make these classes not very long, and I'm going to gauge the feedback that I get from everybody. Today's class is all about the garments that the Torah, that Chassidus and Kabbalah tells us it exists within our closet of tools that we could use and that we do use in living in this world. You have clothing that are available to you. You have certain tools that are available in the expression and in the movement of your soul. Those tools and those vehicles are thought, speech, and action. That's what's built in to your physical body, that your spiritual soul gives movement in your body. So when the doctor is able to pick up movement in your brain, it's just seeing the physical side of the spiritual intellect that's working in your physical brain. When anybody can see the movement of your mouth and of your lips and of your tongue, they're just seeing the expression of your thoughts and of your soul that is dawning and that is putting on itself the clothing of the body, which is the faculty of speech. When anybody sees your physical movement in your hands or in your feet or in your physical body of any sort, which is making an impact in the world, in the realm of deed and action, that is the third of the three clothing that the soul uses in order to express itself on the exterior and on the outside in making some kind of an impact on yourself and in communicating to outside. It's not part of who you are. You can decide which clothing to put on. Sometimes it is a natural expression of an indication of who you are, and sometimes it's a choice that you made either for sincere reasons, because you're going to a wedding and you're really not in the mood of dressing up, but in respect to the occasion, you're going to speak nicely and you're going to think nicely and you're going to act nicely and you're going to put on a tuxedo. And sometimes people can put on a show for the sake of dishonest reasons. They can pretend by donning garments that is entirely not an expression of any sincere desire on their part inside, and it lacks therefore integrity, since it's duplicitous. It's intentionally trying to fool the communication and the message that it's giving the people who see you with these clothing that you have on you. And that's chapter 1 of the book that you should pick up today, A Spiritual Soul Book. Available on Amazon. Just type in A Spiritual Soul Book, Rabbi Shlomo Ezagui, or you can go to the website, aspiritualsoulbook.com, and I make it easy over there for you to pick up a copy of the book by purchasing it from Amazon. And for the next week or so, there is a $5 discount, so you may want to take advantage of that. See you next time when I will go over chapter 2 with you.